And then he says, Amma ba'ad, let's get started in the actual discussions. فإن الله سبحانه وتبارك وتعالى لم يخلق خلقه سدى مهملا. Allah did not create his creation without purpose. Allah created us with purpose. Pull some chairs up if you guys want. بل جعلهم موردا للتكليف. Allah gave us responsibilities, which makes you think, if we have responsibilities, that means that Allah expects us to do something. ومحلا للأمر والنهي. Allah made us capable of doing things, amr, commands, and avoiding things, those things that are forbidden. Again, like whilst we're sat here, we're trying to do some brainwashing, we're trying to do some rewiring. I am capable of doing what Allah has commanded me. After mentioning all of these amazing qualities of Allah, after mentioning Allah knows me, loves me, cares for me, all of these things, Allah loves me more than my parents, Allah loves me more than anything, then Allah gave me commands and forbidding, prohibitions and commands. It means Allah knows that I'm capable, what I'm capable of, how much I'm capable of, what my limits are. وَأَلْزَمَهُمْ فَهْمَ مَا أَرْشَدَهُمْ إِلَيْهِ مُجْمَلًا وَمُفَصَّلًا. And not only that, he says Allah has made our intellect such that we are able to, you can pull some chair up if you want. Allah has made it such that we are able to, our intellect is able to conclude and understand exactly what Allah wants from us, and that it makes sense. See, this is one thing that I've always kind of found some frustrations with. Even as I was growing up, as I was studying bits of the religion, there was always little gaps that I wouldn't completely understand. This is when I'm like, as a student, when I was in college, when I was in high school, I'd ask questions and I'd be told, you shouldn't really ask that question, or you shouldn't really explore that idea. And so my objective really became, as I was studying as a student, the things that I was told, don't really ask that, don't really explore that. I want to explore that. That's what I want to question. That's what I want to push on. And those places that I pushed on, I found answers. And this is the thing, a lot of the time you'll see an answer, you'll see some answer online which makes you cringe and think, is that really the Islam that I believe in and I ascribe to? And is that what Islam's really saying? And you start thinking to yourself, I'm not too sure about that. That's because that version of Islam is not the correct version. And so that classical, traditional, what the scholars have written, what the Quran says, what the Hadith says, the classical texts, that's what we want to go back to. And so, وَأَلْزَمَهُمْ فَهْمَ مَا أَرْشَدَهُمْ إِلَيْهِ مُجْمَلًا وَمُفَصَّلًا. Allah has actually given you not just the ability to fulfill those acts, but He's given you the intellect to be able to understand, why do I need to do this? What's the sense in this, right? A lot of the time when we have our youth essentials, we have the conversations. One of the conversations that happens every year is, why can't I interact with the opposite gender? And that requires quite some unpacking. That requires a lot of work. And just to kind of briefly point you in that direction, at the end of this session, we'll maybe discuss that, because it's not connected to this. But after Isha, if you want to ask that, we can discuss that. وَقَسَّمَهُمْ, and like we can spend like an hour on that. وَقَسَّمَهُمْ إِلَى شَقِيٍّ وَسَعِيدٍ. Allah then kind of split the people into two groups, two possibilities, two options. You can choose one of two paths, شَقِيٍّ وَسَعِيدٍ, the fortunate or the unfortunate, the fortunate and the wretched. وَجَعَلَ لِكُلِّ وَاحِدٍ مِّنَ الْفَرِيقَيْنِ مَنْزِلًا. And then Allah created an end goal and an ending for each of these groups, where you will end up and where you will end up. وَأَعْطَاهُمْ مَوَادًّا الْعِلْمِ وَالْعَمَلِ. Allah gave us the capabilities and the tools that will lead us to learning and then practicing. مِنَ الْقَلْبِ, the heart, وَالسَّمْعِ, our hearing, وَالْبَصَرِ, our eyes, وَالْجَوَارِحِ, our bodies, نِعْمَةً مِّنْهُ وَتَفَضُّلًا. And these are blessings from Him. As I'm going to leave from here today, I'm going to be thinking to myself, these eyes of mine, these ears of mine, this body of mine is a tool that is going to connect me to Allah. How can I use this, or at least use it in as much of a way as possible that it's leading me closer to Allah? This is what we have to ask ourselves. فَمَنِ اسْتَعْمَلَ ذَلِكَ فِي طَاعَتِهِ. Those who use these body parts, these things, these tools that Allah has given in His obedience, وَسَلَكَ بِهِ طَرِيقَ مَعْرِفَتِهِ عَلَى مَا أَرْشَدَ إِلَيْهِ. And they use these body parts, they use these tools, these eyes, these ears, these things, towards that which Allah has guided. وَلَمْ يَبْغِ عَنْهُ عُدُولًا. And you don't go and veer left and right. فَقَدْ قَامَ بِشُكْرِ مَا أُوتِيَهُ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. That is true appreciation of what Allah has given you. True gratitude is not, look, if I give you a really, like if every single one of you today, I give you a really nice scarf, a really nice fancy scarf or something, which has some value, some merit to it, and you take it home, and then I visit one of your homes, and when I come to your home, before I come to your home, every single day this week, you message me and say, Mufti, Jazakallah for the scarf, it's a really nice scarf, this, that, and I'm like, okay, I appreciate it, this, that, and then on next week, I, for some reason, maybe come to your house. And when I come to your house, I when you invite me into your house, on the floor as a kind of floor mat, you're using that towel. Or you're using that towel, that cloth that I gave you, which is of quite some significant value, you're using it for something that is insignificant or something not nice. Nothing wrong with that in theory, but you can't on one side say that you really appreciate a gift and then you treat it in another way at the same time. The lip service of us saying Alhamdulillah, it has to coincide with our actions of Alhamdulillah. I can't say to Allah, I thank you for the eyes, Allah, and then I use the eyes in another way. It's just not possible. Human beings have to understand that we hate that two-sidedness. When somebody says one thing to our face and then behind me they're doing another thing. Oh, you're sending me long messages about you love this. But when you're with the boys, you say they're complete opposite, and you're saying this and you're saying that. And so Allah is the same, that He doesn't like this. Allah doesn't appreciate this. I have to ask myself, Allah, you've given me these body parts. You've given me these blessings. I'm sat here right now, Allah. I make an intention. Last week I made an intention. This week I make an intention. Allah, I will make an intention every week till the day I die that I will try and please you. Every single day I'm going to make this attempt. And so, وَلَمْ يَرَعَ حَقَّ خَالِقِهُ فِيهِ تَحَسَّرَ إِذَا سُئِلَ عَنْ ذَلِكَ. If a person does not consider the rights of their master when they use these body parts, تَحَسَّرَ. They will have immense regret when they are asked about this. Again, the day of judgment, that's a reality. I have to stand in front of Allah. I have to give account. And this is something that you have to reflect on. And every single one of us, this is something Allah has created within us. When we will reflect on our actions, every one of us will conclude, when Allah asks me on the day of judgment, I'll be the worst. I'll be the worst of the worst. وَحَزِنَ حُزْنًا طَوِيلًا. This person will have such immense regrets. فَإِنَّهُ لَا بُدَّ مِنَ الْحِسَابِ عَلَى حَقِّ هَذِهِ الْأَعْضَاءِ. There is no doubt every person will be held accountable for these body parts. لِقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى, Allah says, إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ. Your seeing, your hearing, your heart, كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. Every one of these will be questioned about. So the accountability element of this, a person has to keep in the back of their mind. وَلَمَّا كَانَ الْقَلْبُ لِهَذِهِ الْأَعْضَاءِ كَالْمَلِكِ الْمُتَصَرِّفِ فِي الْجُنُودِ. Now, he's started off this discussion and he started off by saying, look, you have lots of body parts, you have lots of tools, but the problem is we often focus on everything but the root of the cause. And so he says, let's start and get into the meat of things. He says, كَانَ الْقَلْبُ لِهَذِهِ الْأَعْضَاءِ. When you're talking about all body parts, your eyes, your ears, your everything that you have, and you're struggling with these, you're struggling with the eyes, you're struggling with the ears, you're struggling with how you put your body into motion in obedience to Allah, this heart of yours is لهذه الأعضاء كالملك المتصرف في الجنود. It's like the king or the general that is controlling the soldiers and the army. The heart is controlling the rest of your body. الذي تصدر كلها عن أمره. Everything occurs as a result of this heart. ويستعملها فيما شاء. And the heart is the one that dictates what your body does. فكلها تحت عبوديته وقهره. Don't underestimate how much control this heart has over your obedience and what this body will do. وتكتسب منه الإقامة والزيغ. Your being corrupt or your being on the straight and narrow is dependent on your heart. وتتبعه فيما يعقده من العزم أو يحله. It will follow and it will follow the whims and the pushes and the directions of your heart. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, up until now Ibn al-Qayyim is talking. Up until now, if you're half in, half out, it's fine. Now the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is going to step into the field and he's going to say something. This hadith of Bukhari, Muslim, very, very famous hadith, authentic narration. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is about to say something and he's going to tell us about this heart and he's going to tell us about the nafs, that's the bottom line. That's the final line. There's no two ways about this. He says, أَلَا إِنَّ فِي الْجَسَدِ مُضْغَةً. In the body of yours, in your body, in my body, there is a mudgha, a clot of flesh, a piece of flesh. إِذَا صَلَحَتْ صَلَحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. If that is upright, the rest of the body will be upright. وَإِذَا فَسَدَتْ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. And if that is corrupt, the rest of the body is corrupt. أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبِ. It's the heart. This is, when it comes to discussing certain subjects, this hadith is the kind of primary hadith on the nafs. And if you understand this hadith, you understand everything that you need to step into and what you need to start on. Because this is the hadith that sets priorities. I gave you the example last week of a tree that's going bad. It's losing its leaves, it's rotting, it's not growing fruits. And so somebody comes along and paints the leaves green. Somebody comes along and kind of puts these metal things that hold it infirm and make it look like it's upright. Somebody else comes along and sticks flowers onto it. Somebody else comes along and buys fruits from Sainsbury's and then puts these fruits on the tree. And you think we've solved the problem, we've fixed the issue, but the problem is with the roots. You can do all of this stuff. These are all what we'll call embellishments. This is all makeup. This is all behind the scenes stuff that you're just putting on, and that's it, make it look good. Within 10 minutes, within an hour, within 20 minutes, within however some period of time, it's all going to wash away, it's all going to disappear, and you're going to be left with the same issue, only worse. We have to go to the root. You are all sitting here, I'm sat here with problems that I need to fix. Maybe it's something with my eyes, maybe it's something with my ears, maybe it's something with my hands, maybe it's something with my heart, maybe it's something in salah, maybe it's the way I treat my parents, maybe it's various different things. I don't know how to control my tongue, I don't know how to speak softly and kindly, I don't know how to forgive, I don't know how to do all of these things. Various problems we're all sat with. The Prophet ﷺ says, you're focusing on the wrong thing. إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله. If you fix the heart, reform the heart, refine the heart, put the heart in place, and everything else will fall into place. You're focusing on the wrong things. And the sad thing is, when I ask myself, when was the last time I did something to fix my heart? When was the last real practical step that I took to do something in refining my heart? Often it leads to, like, I can always say, I need to do something, I want to do something, I need to, but the practical steps, the actual steps that it takes to refine, when did I do that last? All of the things that you're thinking that I need to fix, it starts with the heart. It starts with the heart. And if a person fixes the heart, but إذا فسدت, and if the heart is corrupted and it goes wrong, فسد الجسد كله. When you see corrupt actions coming from your body, know that your heart is ill. This is like a doctor. The Prophet ﷺ was a spiritual doctor. When you go to the doctor and you say, I've got this pain and this issue and this issue, he'll combine the symptoms together and he'll conclude and say, this is what your, this is what your issue is, this is what the illness is, this is what the medicine is, try this, if that doesn't work, try this, if that doesn't work, try this. Have we ever said to a doctor, you gave me this medicine, it didn't work, and now you're giving me another medicine? I've got this topical skin condition, I've got this issue, I've got eczema, you gave me this, it didn't work. What are you playing at? The spiritual illnesses are the same, by the way. You might be given one remedy and that remedy just doesn't work for you, but it works for somebody else. And so you have to come back, because the temperaments are different, the hearts are different, the nafs is different. And so sometimes this remedy works for this person, it doesn't work for you. It works for this companion, it doesn't work for you. The wording of this works for this one, but the actions of this are required for this. It's not a one, a one thing fits all, or a one fix fits all. It doesn't work like that. This is what we need to understand. And so he says, فَهُوَ مَلِكُهَا وَهِيَ الْمُنَفِّضَةُ لِمَا يَأْمُرُهَا بِهِ الْقَابِلَةُ لِمَا يَأْتِيهَا مِنْ هَدْيَتِهِ وَلَا يَسْتَقِيمُ لَهَا شَيْءٌ مِنْ أَعْمَالِهَا حَتَّى تَصْدُرُ عَنْ قَصْدِهِ وَنِيَّتِهِ. None of your actions occur except through a filter from the heart. The heart is filtering these actions of ours. The heart is the dictator in this. The heart is the one that's deciding. The heart is the one. Just get a chair. Get a chair. There's some chairs there as well. And so the heart is the thing that's deciding all of these things. That's the starting point. Don't think your actions, that's it, this is the action, I need to fix this action, I just need to close my tongue, or that's it. No, it requires لأن كل راع مسؤول لأن كل راع مسؤول عن رعيته. It's a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that every ra'in is مسؤول عن رعيته. Every shepherd is going to be asked regarding their herd. Every shepherd is going to be asked regarding their flock. And so now think about it like this. On the day of judgment, my heart will be questioned. I will be questioned regarding my flock. We all read that hadith and think to myself, I'm responsible for my flock. That's my family. That's my community. That's my neighbors. That's this. No. It starts with you and your body. You will be questioned regarding your body. I will be questioned regarding how I used it. And so كان الاهتمام بتصحيحه وتسديده أولى ما اعتمد عليه السالكون. There is nothing more important for you to fix in your life and reform in your life than your heart. Ask yourself how much time is spent on the external, on the exterior, on the kind of makeup and the decorative things and all of these things, and how much time is spent in the heart. Our scholars, they say this very, very clearly to us, that we don't understand the illnesses of the heart. Ibn al-Qayyim, he concludes his paragraph by touching on this briefly. وَالنَّظْرُ فِي أَمْرَاضِهِ وَعِلَاجِهِ أَهَمَّ مَا تَنَسَّكَ بِهِ النَّاسِكُونَ. وَالنَّظْرُ, to spend time assessing the illnesses and the spiritual illnesses, the deficiencies and the cures of the heart, is the most important thing you could do. Think about it like this. A physical illness in this world, let's say somebody tells you the worst of illnesses, from ranging from cancer to this to that, whatever. A person dies of that illness. A person dies of that illness. For every moment they have that illness, they are rewarded. And if you die with certain illnesses, you die as a martyr. And in the next life, you are rewarded for every second you had that illness. But that's a physical illness. How much attention do we give to a physical illness? It's in an uncomfortable place. I'm feeling this. I'll go to a doctor. I'll say, "Are you sure about this? I read these things on Google. Are you sure it's not this? Are you sure it's not this? Chat GPT told me it could be this. I could be dying. No, no, it's just a pimple. No, but what about, we'll go to that extent. It's in a compromising position. The doctor will say, let me see it. And you'll say, I'll show you because I'm worried for my life. These are physical illnesses. Does Islam say not to do that? Of course it doesn't. It says, go, get it checked, you understand the balance. Spiritual illnesses, I have takabbur, I have riya, I have ujb, I have ostentation. I want to show off. I want to behave in this way. I want to assert my dominance or show my power or show my authority or get some status. I want to follow my desires, my whims in every single thing. These spiritual illnesses, if I die with a spiritual illness, for every moment I have this spiritual illness, I'm sinful. If I die with that spiritual illness, it doesn't mean I'm a martyr. On the day of judgment, I'll be held accountable for that. I will have to enter the fire of hell and I will be cleansed for those spiritual illnesses first. This is what a person has to understand. That put in front of you the difference between physical illnesses, spiritual illnesses. Put in front of us what Ibn al-Qayyim is saying. Put in front of us what the Prophet ﷺ is saying. And then you realize this 1 hour that I'm attending might be the most important 1 hour of my week. I'm not talking for you, I'm talking for me. This 1 hour or 2 hours before you turned up and I'm sat here preparing, the 1 hour that I'm preparing and you're sitting and listening might be the most important 1 hour of my life. Because that's going to be what matters in the next life, the eternal life. وَلَمَّا عَلِمَ عَدُوَ اللَّهِ إِبْلِيسُ أَنَّ الْمَدَارَ عَلَى الْقَلْبِ وَالِاعْتِمَادَ عَلَيْهِ. That's you and me, we understand the heart is important. But the heart in and of itself might not necessarily be the issue. The author goes a step further, and that's what this book is about. It's about understanding the traps and the tricks of Shaytan and the nets of Shaytan and the little pitfalls of Shaytan. He says, the enemy of Allah, Iblis, he's somebody who also recognized أن المدار على القلب والاعتماد عليه. The cause of your issues, the cause of your problems, the root cause is your heart. And so أجلب عليه بالوساوس. His every attempt is to whisper to your heart. His every attempt is to push your heart. His every attempt is to toy with your heart. Now, in a previous Nafs series, I've discussed this kind of the temperaments of the heart. And Ibn al-Qayyim will go in some detail of this as well. There's two basic things you have to know about your Nafs. There are things you want and there are things you don't want. From this moment you're born, every child, every baby, every adult has these things. When you go near a baby and you scare it, it starts crying. Why? It's trying to push that harm away. When a baby feels hunger, it starts crying. Why? It's trying to acquire some milk, some food, some nourishment. These are the two things every human does. When you want something, you'll do whatever you can in your capacity to acquire it. When you don't want something, you want to push something away, you'll do whatever within your power to push that thing away. Shaytan will toy with these things. You have certain temperaments within you, desires. Every one of us has desires. We have desires for sexual intimacy. We have desires for this. We have desires for that. We have desires for good food, good clothing, all of these things that you have desires for. Shaytan will toy with that. Islam has never said to you, remove your desires. Islam will never say, find me one hadith that says, cut away your desires. I told you last week, didn't I? Some companions come and they say, "Oh Prophet of Allah, we're never going to stop fasting. We're going to fast every day. We're going to do this every night. We're going to worship on." The Prophet says, "I fast some days. I don't fast some days. I sleep some days, and I sleep throughout the night, and I also worship Allah throughout the night." A balance, i'tidal, finding balance. Islam doesn't say remove your anger, cut it away. Anger is terrible. That's it. It's right. Islam doesn't say cut away your desires. You need them. And the examples that I always give, the same examples. If you have too much desire, you don't distinguish between what's permissible, what's not. You won't consider whether this is a family member or not. You won't consider whether this is appropriate or not. You won't consider those. Too little desire. You can't fulfill the rights of your family members. You can't fulfill the rights of your wife. You can't fulfill the rights of in terms of feeding this, that, etc. No desire is a problem. Balance, i'tidal. Too much anger. You won't consider, are these my parents or are these my children? How should I behave with my parents? Should I exert this level of anger against them? These are my children, innocent children. Should I exert that level against them? My wife, my husband, should I exert that level of anger against them? Balance. Too little anger. Somebody walks into your house and says, I'm taking this and I'm taking this. What's the example I always give? If you have too little anger, you'll stop picking up the TV and say, Here, let me help you with it. Let me put it in the car for you. You'll hurt your back. The money, I'll show you where the money is. You need a balance of these things. Islam doesn't say to remove these things. Islam says bring it into balance. So Shaitan, what he does, he pulls at these, he tugs at these heartstrings, literally, these heartstrings, and he says, okay, your desires, let's pull them in this direction. And then your anger, let's pull it in this direction. And let's put this in this direction. Let's pull that in that direction. Right? Rage baiting us and clickbaiting and all of these things. وأقبل بوجوه الشهوات إليه وزين له من الأحوال والأعمال ما يصده به عن الطريق. He beautifies those things that actually were not supposed to be beautified and that were supposed to be ugly. That which I want to think is ugly, I believe it to be ugly, he will beautify it in such a way and convince me this is what I want. And when I come to my senses, I'll be like, this is ugly, this is something I detest, this is something I don't want. But every time Shaitan will come and he'll tug at those heartstrings. And it's as simple as you've got to think about it like your laptop, your computer. There are antiviruses you have to set up. There are firewalls you have to set up. There are things that you have to do. And there are things that Ibn al-Qayyim goes through and he's going to talk to us about. But before he even talks about that, he needs to show us this is what you're dealing with. This is what you're working on. This is what your efforts are on. And so والأعمال ما يسده به عن الطريق وأمده من أسباب الغي بما يقطعه عن أسباب التوفيق. There are doors that Shaitan will close in your life that you don't realize were the doors that would have led you to ability and to do good. You see, I've always mentioned this to you guys as well. There are certain doors that Shaitan closes deliberately. And he does it in very, very smart ways. Look, this Shaitan that we're dealing with, he is experienced. He's as experienced as it gets from day dot, right? From Adam alayhi salam's time, he's been working and he's been refining his technique. The advantage we have is Allah shows us his technique very clearly. Allah expounds on this and he kind of gives us an exposition of this in the Quran again and again. And so Shaitan's constant effort is going to be against us and he's going to close certain of these doors. A basic door that Shaitan will close. And I say this to parents more so than to others, but I often say to parents, one of the doors Shaitan will close for your children very quickly is doors of access. What do I mean by this? Think about the earliest trick of Shaitan. The earliest trick of Shaitan was to, or not even the earliest trick of Shaitan, the downfall of Shaitan. Often, people who have studied the basic level, they'll say something like, Shaitan's downfall was his intellect. He basically tried to think too much, and Islam doesn't allow you to think, and that was his downfall. Respectfully, I think that's quite an immature way of looking at the religion. I think it requires a bit more nuance than that. I believe his first downfall, which scholars have mentioned, was his inability to communicate with Allah. You see, the angels had the same question Shaitan did. The question was, Allah, why are you creating Adam? The angels asked. The angels didn't hesitate. We always say asking why is wrong. The angels in the Quran, they ask the question, why are you creating Adam alayhi salam? And Allah gives a response. And Allah satisfies and satiates their curiosity and their questioning. Iblis doesn't ask. Iblis feels like doesn't make sense to me. Why is he creating this Adam guy? Why is he creating this thing? And then when Allah gives a command and Allah says prostrate, the angels understood what they were doing. They weren't just mindless creatures that we generally think about them as. Angels are just these submissive, mindless creatures. They asked Allah, they got their rationalization. On the basis of that, they were able to practically do something and they were able to prostrate. Iblis hadn't. The first thing that one of the traps of Shaitan that you're learning, that he fell for himself, closing the doors of access. What Ibn al-Qayyim talks about as يَقْطَعُهُ عَنْ أَسْبَابِ التَّوْفِيقِ. There are tools, and tawfiq is the divine ability. He will seal the tools and the doorways of ability by doing this. And now you go through the stories of the prophets. So you see Shaitan in the Quran, and you've got Yaqub alayhi salam, who's a prophet, and his young boys, his sons, who are deciding to throw Yusuf down the well. Of course, this is a very deep psychological study of human thought, and that's something we've expanded on before and we've looked at. But how we always think ourselves as that could never be me. I would never be in that situation. I would never do that. But what led the brothers to saying, Uqtulu Yusuf, let's kill Yusuf. Let's not pretend like we don't have that ability and capability within us to, when we dislike somebody or something, we're willing to ruin their everything just so that we feel a little better about ourselves. Uqtulu Yusuf, they said, kill Yusuf. And you know what really led to this? They said, Inna abana lafi dalalin mubin. All they had to do was say, Dad, you love Yusuf more. We don't like that. We want you to love us as well. Why do you love Yusuf more? Scholars, in my opinion, again, the majority of scholars I've read that I take from, they have always said that Yaqub didn't love Yusuf more. That's probably what you've heard and what you've read, that Yaqub loved Yusuf more. He didn't love Yusuf more. Of course he didn't. Yusuf was a younger child. The way you treat a younger child is different to the way you treat an adult. The way you don't grab the cheeks of the 15, 16-year-old outside the school gates. He'll look at you funny and say, don't. He'll never look at you again. Whereas the little child, the 7-year-old, the 6-year-old, the 5-year-old, you got to kiss them, you got to hug them, you got to do these things. That balance of knowing what age these children are. He showed a different level of affection to Yusuf, which the other brothers interpreted as more loving. All they had to do was, Dad, we don't understand why you love Yusuf more. Yaqub would have said, I don't love him more. I love you in a different way to him. He's a child. He needs this childish love. You guys are adults. I need to give you that proper love where I'm nurturing you. If I give you that, it's damaging to you. If I give him that, it's damaging to him. You need the type of love that you require. Simple. Solution done. You know what these people say, these young boys say about their father, who's a prophet? Inna abana lafi dalalim mubin. If it wasn't in the Quran, I promise you I'd never say it, I'd never translate it. It's only because Allah said it. A literal translation, our dad has lost the plot. That's the literal translation of a prophet. That's what they're saying, the children of a prophet. Inna abana, our father, lafi dalalim mubin. Dalal is misguidance, by the way. That's the word used. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. The misguided, the people who Allah is telling you to make dua not to be. Dalal is that exact word, but not just dalal. Mubin is very clear, apparent, explicit misguidance. Dad's lost the plot is the best translation I can fathom. How is Allah allowing that to be said about His Prophet? Allah is teaching us who's in the background playing the strings. When Yaqub says to his son Yusuf, don't tell your brothers about your dream. Inna Shaytan lakum adu mubin. Shaytan is the enemy, not your brothers. Why does he bring Shaytan in? Shaytan very simply tugs at the heartstrings. Shaytan puts it in the minds of the boys. Yaqub is a door of asbab al-tawfiq. Your divine ability, your ability to become a better believer, this is a door to it, but I'm going to seal that door. Why do I say this to parents? Because there is a thing where there are certain people who can help your children. There are certain places they need to be. There are certain things they need to learn. And you can easily close the doors of that access to them. We say, you don't take your religion from here and don't take it from here, but take it from these things that glitter and take it from these things that look good and feel good. And that's damaging. That's damaging. You have to connect your children to authentic, genuine causes of knowledge and sources of knowledge. And that these doors that are being closed, that we are closing on ourselves, that's what Shaitan makes us do. He's old school. He doesn't understand the workings of the world. She doesn't understand how the world operates and how the business world works and how we live in the real world. They're kind of out of date. They're living in a different, they're living in the Arab deserts and this and that. That's not you. Don't think that's your intellect. That's Shaitan playing games with you. That yes, you need to seal those doors of guidance. So you need to seal those doors of tawfiq. Don't go to this lecture. Don't go to this class. Don't benefit from this. Don't go. Don't do this. Don't do that. You don't need to do this. You can do this at home. You can achieve this yourself. You don't need it. Slowly. And of course, it's coming from our enlightened minds that mashallah, I know what I'm doing. I know what to do in the process, etc., without having read even the Quran translation once in my life, but I can make such determinations. This is, by the way, this is me having a go at myself. This is all of us trying to feel uncomfortable. That's what the nafs is supposed to do in these sessions. It's vulnerability, it's feeling uncomfortable, it's the hard truths. Ibn al-Qayyim does that. وَنَصَبَ لَهُ مِنَ الْمَصَايِدِ وَالْحَبَائِلِ مَا إِنْ سَلِمَ مِنَ الْوُقُوعِ فِيهَا لَمْ يَسْلَمُ مِنْ أَنْ يَحْصُلَ لَهَا بِهَا التَّعْوِيقِ. He says, he has set such traps and such pitfalls. Shaitan has set such traps that number one, you're convinced that you're the one who's doing what you're doing. But number two, إن سلم من الوقوع فيها لم يسلم من أن يحصل له بها التعويق. You cannot dodge and avoid these except with immense difficulty. What's he saying? You cannot be passively playing this game. You cannot be passively playing this game. You have to be actively involved. It's not just something you can do passively. You have to be involved and actively watching and looking for these things. You will see them if you look for them. You will see them laid out everywhere if you look for them. But you can't just be like, I'm going to be a better Muslim tomorrow, and tomorrow comes and there's no active steps. There's nothing you've done to practically help yourself. I'm deleting this app, or I'm deleting this, or I'm getting rid of this, or I'm going to focus on this, or I'm going to reduce this, I'm going to spend more time on this, I'm going to fix a time for this. Not just I'm going to start reading Quran tomorrow. No, I'm going to fix this time for Quran. No matter what happens, no matter who comes, no matter who says what, this is my time to read Quran. This is my time to do dhikr. This is my time as a family to do this, as a this to do. It doesn't just fall into place. No, it doesn't happen for me either. I can sit here teaching throughout the whole day, but that doesn't mean, this is something I've seen from my teachers. They teach the whole day Quran and they teach the whole day Hadith, but they still have their fixed amount of Quran they have to read in a day. Because one thing is, one thing is your teaching and this and that, and your focus is on that, but you also have to have your wird. Just because I'm teaching, even if I'm teaching one juz of the Quran on a daily basis, I have to complete my reading amount. And there are people that amongst us today, I don't normally take names and I don't like to take names, but I won't take his name. No, I will take his name. Sheikh Uzair Abdul Samad. He was at Kilburn. He's no longer at Kilburn. Young individual. He completes one Quran on a weekly basis. On a weekly basis. It's not something that I would know through him telling. It's through a thing. But khair, he completes one Quran on a weekly basis. On a daily basis, he reads about easily 7-8 juz of the Quran. Consistently. There was one time that one of his teachers came, Sheikh Abdul Rashid Sufi, and when he came, throughout the whole car ride, throughout the whole day, he didn't say a single word because he was behind on his wird and he had to complete his wird, and he does a khatam every Thursday. Any attachment to the Quran is not the public stuff. Attachment, that piety stuff, it doesn't happen in public. It's building in private. That's the scaffolding. It all takes place in the background. The public stuff you see, that's not the stuff that makes people pious. If you see me giving 5 lectures a week, that doesn't make me pious. If you see me stood on the pulpit in the masjid, that doesn't make me pious. That's me doing my work. That's me doing my job. That's me doing my responsibilities. That's me doing what I deem as the most important thing I need to do in my life. That's really how I see work, by the way. Work is you making a determination of what you see as your priorities in life and what you want to do. That's every person makes that determination themselves. That's what I see as my priority. That's not me becoming pious or doing pious things, although it might seem like that to most. The piety stuff and the building happens in the background. That happens what nobody else sees. That happens what nobody else knows about. The charity isn't the public facing stuff. The charity is the private stuff as well. The stuff that happens in your home. That's the real private charity. That's what Allah talks about, right? Allah doesn't talk about the charity as the stuff where you stand in the masjid and say, I'll pledge this much, and you stick my name on this circular thing in the masjid, which I find absolutely absurd as a concept as well. If you give this much money, we'll put your name on the masjid wall. What are you talking about? What is this? You give this much charity and we'll send you a cake to your house. What? An exchange? But that's how we become, isn't it? I'll only go and give charity if I get some takeaway in return, some cake in return, some this, some that. I can't give because that's giving charity is weird. Who gives charity? And I couldn't. But this is the nafs. This is I'm not having to go at the organizations that do it. They do it with such a good cause. They're trying to get people to give because people don't give unless they get something. But this is the injection that we're giving to the nafs. This is the operation we're doing on the nafs, questioning the things that exist and saying to ourselves, maybe that's not the prophetic way of doing things. Maybe my name shouldn't be on every single thing. Maybe my name shouldn't be in every single place. Maybe there are instances that I need to have some privacy. And I've always said to the students and to myself, and I always say this, the one metric of real piety I see as a genuine metric of piety is one question: is my private life better than my public life? You know how hard that is for somebody who's a public speaker. The public speaker, he looks like he's doing all the pious stuff externally, but you have to make your private life even better than that. That's expectation for all of us. How am I in front of people and how am I in private? How am I in front of these are things we've seen from our teachers. One of my teachers, Sheikh Shabir, doing tawaf, just doing tawaf. He'll sometimes, I remember on the day of Arafah, he completed the full Quran on the day of Arafah. His private thing, word, normal. This is alongside their teaching. This is alongside alongside their constant work that they're doing. You have to be connected. I have to fix my time and say, this is what I'm doing spiritually on a daily basis. If it doesn't happen, I don't sleep until it gets done. I do the same with work deadlines. If I have a work deadline, last night, Khidr and Abdurrahman, you guys know, 11:58, we had a deadline for 12. 11:58, we were kind of getting that deadline done, and 11:58, we submitted that thing that we need to submit. The whole day, like, busy. I was in Birmingham. We stopped at a family member's house in Derby, and then for 1 hour, I completed that, sending these out. And then after that, from Derby, I then drove home. Yeah, we all do it. I'm not special. You guys do it. You guys in university with coursework deadlines, you do the same thing on the last day, on the last few hours. You get it all done now. Chat GPT, so you can get it done easily. We all have our deadlines that we have to stay up in the night for. Why can't I set that for my nafs? You see, that's Ibn al-Qayyim is telling us. Your deen. If you mess up on the deen stuff, your heart doesn't fix, your body doesn't fix. Your body doesn't fix, your actions will be corrupt. Your actions will influence and affect everybody around you. Your family members and everybody has to put up with that because you are not mature enough to fix your heart. And so that's where it comes. فَلَا نَجَاةَ مِن مَصَائِدِهِ وَمَكَائِدِهِ إِلَّا بِدَوَامِ الْإِسْتِعَانَةِ بِاللَّهِ تَعَالَى. And he starts by saying, you cannot protect yourself from the traps of Shaytan except first by constantly asking for help from Allah. When was the last time I asked help from Allah against my nafs? When was the last time I made dua? How consistently am I making dua? Allahumma inna nasta'inuka. Allahumma, I'm asking you for help in regard to my nafs. Allahumma, I'm asking you for help in regard to my heart. I'm asking you for help in regard to my actions. Every night, make it a habit. Fix your time. Maybe night isn't the best time because you're with family and stuff like that. Maybe after Fajr is a good time for you. Maybe after Dhuhr is a good time for you. What is the time for you to ask Allah, Allah, I need your help? وَالتَّعَرُّضْ لِأَسْبَابِ مَرَضَاتِهِ. After that, after you've begged Allah and you keep begging Allah. Remember, it's not a one-time thing. I begged Allah, that's it, move on. After you consistently beg Allah, وَالتَّعَرُّضْ لِأَسْبَابِ مَرَضَاتِهِ. Now you need to find the illnesses. We haven't even diagnosed our illnesses, let alone now what's the cure, let alone now what's the solution, let alone now what do I need to do, what are the steps I need to take. It's just wishful thinking that comes from Shaytan. Tomorrow I'll change, tomorrow will be better. That's it. You're convinced, you're happy, you're pleased with yourself, nothing happens, let's move on. 2 weeks later, 1 week later, you go back to sleep. Tomorrow I'll change. I need to change. I need to do something about this. I can't keep doing this. Good, well done. Shaitan's clapping. You've made your intention. That's all you need to do. You don't need to do more than that. You don't need to diagnose the issue. You don't need to find a solution. You don't need to make an effort. You don't need to practically, passively, we'll get it done. We'll get there. We'll get there before we get married. No, we'll get there once we're married. No, we'll get there once the kids are coming. We'll get there once the white hairs come. We'll get there once we get old and once we are grandparents and once we're this and once we're that. And then by that time we realize we didn't get it done at all. We don't know what to do. We don't know where to stop. وَالتَّعَرُّضْ لِأَسْبَابِ مَرَضَاتِ. It's intense, right? Ibn al-Qayyim is like Imam Ghazali. He gives it. Remember when we did Bidayat al-Hidayah? We were all like feeling it in the heart, like, and he's like giving us slap after slap, putting us straight. And that's what this is for me as well. This isn't me having a go at you, by the way. This is all us collectively taking thrashing from a man who died, in the 500 Hijri, 600 Hijri, which is about 1,000 years ago. So, والتجاء القلب إليه وإقباله عليه في حركاته وسكناته, by seeking refuge, the heart seeking refuge in Allah and turning to Allah in every action, in every moment. والتحقق بالذل العبودية الذي هو أولى ما تلبس به الإنسان, and adorning yourself with that submission to Allah, with that, he used the word dhul. Dhul is usually translated in that humiliation, humbling yourself before Allah, not realizing humbling before Allah is only going to bring you honor. Humble yourself in front of the creation, it doesn't bring you honor. People don't like that. When you ask people for the things they have, when you turn to people asking for their money, for their clothes, for their this, for their that, that doesn't give honor to a person. That's humiliating, that's embarrassing. But asking from Allah doesn't humble and humiliate. Asking from Allah is an act of humility which raises you up, because Allah gives you from His infinite treasures. That's what we have to understand, that I'll turn to Allah, not to people. I don't need from people, I need from Allah. بذل العبودية الذي هو أولى ما تلبس به الإنسان ليحصل له الدخول في ضمان إن عبادي ليس لك عليهم سلطان, until a person reaches what? The level where the verse of the Quran, إن عبادي ليس لك عليهم سلطان, and he stops the verse there, the continuation of the verse, إلا من اتبعك من الغاوين. Allah says to Shaytan, when Shaytan says, Allah, can I have access to their hearts and can I play with them and toy with them? Allah says, absolutely. Inna ibadi, but there's a thing you should know, Shaytan. Inna ibadi, my slaves. Ibadi, first of all, my slaves. Any connection to Allah, the Arabic students know, mudaf ilayh, my slaves. It's the strongest bond that Allah has when He does mudaf ilayh. These are my slaves. Laysa laka alayhim sultanun. You will have no authority over them. Illa man ittaba'aka min al-ghaween. Except those who are ghaween, those who choose to go astray and they follow your path. It's actually us who have the control. It's me and you who have the steering wheel in our hands. And the reason we sometimes feel that's not the case is we give too much credibility to Shaytan. We let him take too much authority. You have the steering wheel in your hand. You make the decisions. You have to actively step out of here saying, I'll make the call. I'll call the shots from now. And if you have that mindset and you're going with that mindset, it will push you to do better. I'm not saying it'll be perfect. It might work for 6 hours, it might work for 1 day, it might work for 2 days, and then you'll slip again. That's why you need this charge. That's why you have to keep coming back. That's why I have to keep coming back. That's why I have to keep reading. That's why you have to keep studying. We all have to keep doing this. Inna ibadi laysa laka alayhim sultanun. Shaitan, you have no dominion and authority over my slaves because they submit to me. They are free from you. They are free from the threshold or the kind of the shackles of this world, from society, from pressures of everybody else. They're free from all of these things because they only care about me. They only care about my pleasure. فهذه الإضافة هي القاطعة بين العبد وبين الشياطين. هذه الإضافة هي القاطعة بين العباد وبين الشياطين وحصولها بسبب تحقيق مقام العبودية لرب العالمين وإشعار القلب بإخلاص العمل ودوام اليقين. He continues for a little while. فإذا أشرب القلب العبودية والإخلاص صار عند. All he says is, from this verse you clearly understand, when you give your heart down into submission to Allah and you're willing to do whatever it takes, Allah gives you that protection. إلا عبادك منهم المخلصين. Allah gives you that kind of ikhlas and that sincerity to be connected to Him. ولما من الله الكريم بلطفه بالاطلاع على ما اطلع عليه من أمراض القلوب وأدوائها. He says, okay, fine. You understand the heart is the primary thing you need to focus on. We've covered that. He says, thereafter you understand that Shaitan, your enemy, he is going to play with your heart. He's going to tug at those heartstrings. How he's going to kind of push you and make an effort on you and all of these things. We've looked at that. And it's not easy unless you're actively involved. So fine, I need to do some cleansing of the heart. I need to do some understanding and working on the heart. But at the same time, I also need to put some safeguards up. I need to also put some safeguards up against Shaitan and his tricks. That's why he has a chapter where he's going to discuss what are the tricks and the traps of Shaitan. But we'll come to that. So he says that now that we appreciate that there are illnesses of the heart, there are there are poisons of the heart that will enter into our heart and that will destroy us, our actions, our thought processes, all of these things. And there are adwa'iha, there are remedies for that as well. There's no giving up hope. Ibn al-Qayyim has a chapter on addiction. We've covered that, innit? We've covered it. We've covered in detail how he goes. And when I talk about addiction, when I delivered this specific discussion on addiction for Ibn al-Qayyim, I was so shocked. We even picked up the what was it? The DSM manual for mental health, and we went through certain things like addiction, OCD, which he talks about 1,000 years ago in light of the Quran and Hadith. And we've made the list of, for example, the things that are deemed as addiction, and Ibn al-Qayyim lists them one by one in his book at the end. It's like a small chapter he has at the end, and we looked at it and we were just in shock, like, what is this? Like Ibn al-Qayyim is talking about this in light of the Quran and Hadith. It's not like he was a doctor, like a medicinal doctor or something like that. He didn't understand addiction the way, but the words he's using, the phrase he's using, it's just in tandem with these ideas. And you're just looking at this like, the Hadith talks about these things, and Ibn al-Qayyim is expounding on it and saying addiction, this is the solution, this is the issue, this is the thing, this is the root cause, this is the thing. He talks about how it takes an entire village to pull one person out of addiction. They go to AA meetings, this is what they talk about. It takes like 12, 15 people to pull one person out of addiction. عجيب يعني. ولما من الله الكريم بلطفه بالاطلاع على ما اطلع عليه من أمراض القلوب وأدوائها. And by the Ibn al-Qayyim says, thank Allah. He's the one who allowed you to consider the fact that your heart might be ill. He allowed you to even consider that as an option. Me, I might have got to the age of 40, 50, 60, not even ever considered my heart could be ill. I know my arms get ill, my body gets ill, my brain might get ill, my this might get ill, my liver, my this, my that. Have I ever considered spiritually that my heart might get ill? And that the root would be my heart. I'll keep blaming my mind or my eyes or my this or my that. Allah allowed us to consider that the heart might be ill. That enlightenment in and of itself is a blessing from Allah. And then He allowed us to appreciate there are remedies for that illness. It's not doom and gloom and give up and that's it. No, there's options, possibilities. There are things you can do. وَمَا يَعْرِضُ لَهَا مِنْ وَسَاوِسِ الشَّيَاطِينِ أَعْدَائِهَا. And then He taught us about the whispers of Shaytan. That you have an enemy that you're constantly tackling with. This is no passive enemy. This is an actively working agent. And you have to actively work against this agent. This isn't a passive game that we're doing here. وَمَا تُثْمِرُهَا تِلْكَ الْوَسَاوِسِ مِنَ الْأَعْمَالِ. And then the results of these wasawis and these doubts, how they impact our actions. وَمَا يَكْتَسِبُ الْقَلْبُ بَعْدَهَا مِنَ الْأَحْوَالِ فَإِنَّ الْعَمَلَ السَّيِّئِ مَصْدَرُهُ عَنْ فَسَادِ قَصْدِ الْقَلْبِ. He then says you should know that when you do fall for those whispers and those temptations and those doubts and those questions and those pushes, know that فَإِنَّ الْعَمَلَ السَّيِّئِ, the evil actions of yours, مَصْدِرُهُ عَنْ فَسَادِ قَصْدِ الْقَلْبِ, they lead to even a further degradation and a damaging of the heart of even further. ثُمَّ يَعْرِضُ لِلْقَلْبِ مِنْ فَسَادِ الْعَمَلِ قَسْوَةً. And then your actions continue in this darkness, and it leads to this hardening of the heart. فَيَزْدَادُ مَرَضًا عَلَى مَرَضِهِ حَتَّى يَمُوتُ. The illness compounds upon the illness within your heart until it dies. Your heart reaches a spiritual death. وَيَبْقَى لَا حَيَاةَ فِيهِ وَلَا نُورَ لَهُ. There remains no life therein, no light therein. وَكُلُّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ إِنْفِعَالِهِ لِوَسْوَسَةِ الشَّيْطَانِ. And that is entirely because of the whispers and the influence of Shaytan allowed into your heart. وَرُكُونُهُ إِلَىٰ عَدُوِّهِ الَّذِي لَا يُفْلِحُ إِلَّا مَنْ جَاهَرَهُ بِالْعِصْيَانِ. And for you, not the whispers weren't the cause. The whispers weren't the issue. It's you then, رُكُونُكَ إِلَيْهِ, رُكُونِهِ إِلَيْهِ, you inclined towards those whispers and you slowly shifted towards those whispers. When has Shaytan ever said to any of us, from today I'm never going to pray again? When has he ever said, this is the last day of my life that I'm going to pray? When has Shaytan said to us, I'll pray later, I'll pray a little later, I'll delay it until you missed it? And the next, I'll pray later, I'll do my wudu, sit down, and I'll get on with something else. I'm going to pray. On the prayer mat, I'll pray, I'm ready. And then this happens, and that happens, and that happens, and then you don't pray. Understanding the traps of Shaytan, isn't it? That's what Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah is talking about. He says, but you let it happen such, you kept inclining towards Shaytan until it led to the death of your heart. The only way to fix that is to go against Shaytan. أردت أن أقيد ذلك في هذا الكتاب. And so Ibn al-Qayyim, remember I said to you, this is the introduction. He's not even going to the book. So he says, the whole point of a muqaddimah, introduction, a preface, is to tell you, what's the reason for me putting this book together? So he says, so then I decided that I should أقيد ذلك في هذا الكتاب. I should compile these ideas in this book of mine. لأستذكره معترفا فيه لله بالفضل والنعمة. And so that I can remind myself and you can remind yourself with the grace of Allah. وينتفع به من نظر فيه. And that person who looks at this, داعيا لمؤلفه بالمغفرة والرحمة, a person who really comes willing to seek forgiveness and wants to change, when they will read this, they will find something in this. وسميته إغاثة اللهفان في مصائد الشيطان. I named the name of this book إغاثة اللهفان في مصائد الشيطان, the traps of Shaytan. Oh, إغاثة. I'm distracted because I know the voice of that baby crying. That's my baby crying. So إغاثة اللهفان, إغاثة means helping, اللهفان, okay, I thought she was going to come here. إغاثة اللهفاني, helping the lahfan. Lahfan is the heart that's drowning. في مصائد الشيطان, in the from the tricks of Shaytan. And so yeah, come, get my mouse. Come on, give me. Where is it? Where do you go? Here. So where are you? ورتبه 13 بابا, and he says I've given it 13 chapters. I put it into 13 chapters. So now, very briefly, he's going to talk about. Oh, she's gone. Okay. He's going to talk about the 13 chapters that he's put the book into. And I'll very briefly point out what we're going to cover. That's just the introduction. So it's going to be talking about the heart is split into three categories: Sahih, Saqim, and Mayyit. That's where I got the title for the poster for the course. Sahih, healthy; Saqim is diseased; and Mayyit is deceased. Right, that play on words, deceased and diseased. Then he's going to go on to the illnesses of the heart. Then he's going to go on to the cures. How there's two, like some people, see, some people are born just pious. Like some people have it just, it's ingrained within them. There's certain of our teachers, Sheikh Inayatullah and other individuals, they're just born like friends of Allah. Some people just don't have a bad bone in their body. And then there's somebody like me who wants to cause as much trouble as possible, as much chaos as possible, who's just a troublemaker. I was the only student in the history of my entire madrasa to get expelled. And I say that to these guys like in shock, like I was the only student to ever get expelled from maktab, from madrasa in the madrasa that we went to. And that's like how much of a troublemaker I was. But some people have it within them to just be pious and righteous. We might not be like that. Ibn al-Qayyim talks about that. There's some people tabi'atan they have that. Some people shari'iyatan they have that. You have to develop that through the religion. The religion will give you certain guidelines and say, this is how you achieve this. And in some things you'll be perfect, in some things you'll incline towards, some things you won't incline towards. You just have to identify that. What are my weaknesses? What are my issues? And for the vast majority of men, the issues are very similar. The vast majority of women, the issues are similar. It's just as sometimes you'll kind of deviate slightly on this or that. By and large, men have the issue of struggling with controlling their eyes and the desires and these types of things. And by and large, for women, it will be other things such as, for example, displaying beauty or this or that, etc., etc. There'll always be other generalizations and things like this. I'm generalizing, but there'll always be exceptions to the rule, and there's always solutions for those exceptions. By and large, the issues are not so difficult to work out. And that's because that's how Allah frames it. Allah frames it in that way that as much as the men are going to pretend like that's not an issue, let's not play games here and let's let the nafs kind of and say this is the issue and this is what I need to remedy and fix. And so you can't, and this is what I always say as well when I do these types of talks. We don't get involved, especially here, we don't get involved in the what do I call it, the gender wars. We don't get involved in gender wars here, that the men get this and the women get it. We don't do that over here. When we're looking at Quran and Hadith, Allah has a go at the men, Allah has a go at the women. We're here to have ourselves have a go at. I want Allah to have a go at me and kind of tell me exactly what I need to do, how I need to fix up, what I need to do. So I'm coming with that mindset of tell me what I'm doing wrong and tell me what's wrong. I want to fix it. Not this isn't kind of for me to go away and say to my wife, you see what Allah said about you today. And that's not for the wife to go to the husband and say, you see what Allah said about you today. It's we're adults here. Yeah? So and then he talks about some other discussions, cures of the heart, في ذكاء القلب، في طهارة القلب من أدرانه وأنجاسه، في علامات مرض القلب وصحته. How you know when your heart is in the mend and how you know your heart is slipping. That's an important chapter. He does various other ones, and in the last chapter he always does this. He leaves his last chapter as the kind of the pièce de résistance, or that kind of thing, where he says في مكايد الشيطان التي يكيد بها ابن آدم, the little tricks and traps of Shaytan which he drags the son of Adam into, the daughter of Adam into error. And so he then concludes with the dua: والله تعالى يجعله خالصا لوجهه مؤمنا من الكرة الخاسرة وينفع به مصنفه وكاتبه والناظر فيه في الدنيا والآخرة إنه سميع عليم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Obviously he's writing a book, so he says we make dua that Allah makes it sincerely for himself, he removes from it any filth, and he blesses and benefits the one who wrote it, the one who reads it, even the one who just looks inside of this book for a quick moment in this dunya and the akhirah. So you've all got Ibn al-Qayyim's dua there. And so then from next week inshallah we'll start on that. What time is salah? 9 o'clock. So next week inshallah we'll start on that, the classification of the heart. And I'm hoping, my intent is, he says it's 13 chapters, I'm hoping we can cover one chapter a day. So I will condense it. So if this is the first chapter, it's only like 3-4 sides, this first chapter, it concludes here. I'm hoping we can get through one of these per week. And so, I'll skip some bits out that I feel. When I say I'll skip some bits out, I'll skip it out, meaning I'll summarize it in the English for you, so you're not missing anything. But we'll try and keep it such that we can hopefully get it done in about 13 sessions. It's ambitious, but let's see. We might have to, and then some sections like the illnesses and stuff, where he'll go into much more detail, we'll have to spread them out, obviously. But let's see. I have good hope that we'll be able to make good progress on this, inshallah. So next week we'll look at the different types of heart. So what we're taking away from this week, the key takeaway for me from this week is going to be specifically, I'm more conscious of the fact that Shaytan is working on me. I'm more conscious of the fact that he can't influence me and I can make the decisions. I'm in the driver's seat. So if I decide that I want to do this, it's not a case of later or this or that. As soon as you feel your heart saying afterwards, I'll delay it, you need to know where that influence is coming from. And that's where you have to put your foot down and say, I'm doing it now. Say what you want to do, I'm doing it now. That means I'm going to throw my phone to the side, slide it to the side, do this, do that, whatever. I'm doing this now and I'm doing it now. You fix yourself some time, some structures, some things that will help you. And that's for each of us to decide. And that means that you might have to leave this session and fix a time that I'm going to reflect on what I need to fix up first. I need to spend an hour deciding what things I need to change in my day, what things I need to add in my day, what things I need to remove from my day. You have to do some journaling, you have to do some thinking, soul searching. That's part of the process of this. You need to think about, what traps am I going into? You might need to create a locked folder inside your mobile where you're journaling all of these things. You might need to get a little book or something that you're writing these things in, which is just your book. These are things that I need to think about. These are things that you need to think about. May Allah give us tawfiq. Inshallah, we'll go for salah. After salah, there is tea. A lot of hard work went into making this tea. It's been brewing for 2 hours. It's got ginger inside, honey inside. It's the good quality tea. So even if you're going home straight after, you come get your tea after salah, and then you leave after that, inshallah. Okay, so we'll go perform salah. We'll be open, inshallah, till late. If you've got any questions or if you want to hang around, inshallah, we'll go for salah and then we'll come back, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.